חברים, אני שמח מאוד להביא עוד חומר גאופוליטי בערוץ. הפעם אליהו ירושלמי, איש ותיק של משרד החוץ, היה שגריר ישראל במולדובה ובארמניה, מכיר טוב את כל הפוליטיקה הקשורה בישראל, חבר העמים, רוסיה כמובן. והוא מביא הסתכלות מעניינת על הסבך הגאופוליטי בו אנחנו נמצאים. כמובן אחרי 7 לאוקטובר, איראן וכל גרורותיה, חיזבאללה, החות'ים ועוד. וכמובן במשחק הגיאופוליטי הזה רוסיה. הוא מביא הסתכלות מעניינת שלמעשה מזכירה את מה שכבר היה פה בשנות המלחמה הקרה. וזה נראה באמת שרוסיה לוקחת צד בסכסוך הזה. כיצד אנחנו צריכים להתנהל מול רוסיה, איזו מדיניות לנקוט. כמובן לכל זה נכנס גם הסכסוך, המלחמה בין רוסיה לאוקראינה, וגם פה על ישראל מופעלים לחצים. הסתכלות, אני חושב, מעניינת מאיש מנוסה. אליהו ירושלמי גם הולך אחורה ומביא דוגמה מעניינת, התבטאות של בגין, שדיבר אז בזמן ברית המועצות על התפקיד של ברית המועצות דאז בסכסוך, בתיווך בין שני הצדדים, בין ערבים לישראל. היום אכן לדעתי בהרבה מובנים אנחנו חוזרים למצב המוכר של העולם הישן, וההסתכלות הזאת היא חשובה של אליהו ירושלמי, באמת איש ותיק שיש לו ניסיון. החומר הזה הוא מאתר newswall.co.il, הקרדיט הולך אליהם, הלינק אני אשים למטה גם למאמר וגם לאתר.
Well, the situation in the Middle East is, as usual, very complicated. Since the attack on the attack by Hamas on the 7th of October of last year, we're basically in a total war with all our enemies, meaning the enemies being Hamas, of course, that attacked us directly, Hezbollah in Lebanon that are now, handling with us a confrontation on the border between Israel and Lebanon. And then you have all the pro-Iranian forces in the area, Iranian militias in Syria, in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen. So it's actually a large front, and for the first time, Iran is not only working through her proxies, but because of the attack on the Iranian officers by Israel in Syria, Iran attacked Israel directly with missiles. Yeah, directly for the first time. So this of course changed the course of the war, because this has become not only a conflict between. We all know that Iran is the source of evil. That's where the command is. So that's in Tehran. We all know that, and in a way, Hamas, Hezbollah, all these forces in Yemen, all over the place, they are listening to the Iranians. But the Iranians always fought us undercover, meaning we knew it was them, but it wasn't directly. And this time it went directly. We went into a direct conflict. So the Iranians fired, on us that night a few weeks ago, and we fired at certain targets to make them understand what will happen if they do it again. And since then it's quiet with Iran. On the Hamas front, things are going on very, very slowly, because it's very difficult to dig out a terrorist organization in Gaza. This is like, Mosul in Iraq, years ago with the Americans. This takes a long time. The amount of tunnels that the Hamas has is much more than were in Mosul. And actually, you won't believe this, but the amount of tunnels that Hamas has is much more than the North Vietnamese had during the Vietnam War. In all of Vietnam. meaning in Gaza, they have an amount of tunnels more than the Vietnamese had in Vietnam. So to dig out people from this kind of, tunnel system is very, very difficult. And this is why we're going into a neighborhood, we're clearing it out, then they're coming back. It's a long, long process. And with all of this, we also have, the hostages that are still in the hands of Hamas. We know about 130. 30-something of them we know are dead. We don't know how many are alive. But the Hamas is playing games with us all the time to make a deal on the hostages, and the condition is that Israel will stop the war. And if Israel stops the war with Hamas, that basically means that Israel lost the war. Because if we stop the war, that means that the Hamas can return in a year or two and attack us again from Gaza. Yeah, and we want to clear out Hamas from Gaza. So that's very, very complicated. It cannot be done, let's say, without capturing the city of Rafah, which is right on the border between Egypt and the Palestinian areas. And then we have a problem with Egypt. We also have a problem with America, with the United States, that doesn't want us to go, and hit many, many civilians. Yeah. And the Hamas are also using this as a trick. So it's complicated, it's long, and it's not going to be easy. Of course, there are a lot of pressures. Israel being a democracy, there are a lot of pressures inside Israel to, first of all, get the hostages out at any price, and any price could mean basically the surrender of Israel itself. So it depends how much you want to give here. And the Israeli public is very divided on this. So that's what the situation is right now with Gaza. With Hezbollah, again, the clashes are going on now for 7 months, since the 7th of October. The problem is that tens of thousands of Israelis left their homes on the border, because you cannot live on the border with these clashes going on. So there are a lot of refugees, if you wish, that used to live on the border with Lebanon and also on the border with Gaza, who cannot go home. So you have about 100,000 Israelis misplaced. So it's true that it's not like, like in a regular war, that these people are refugees and live in tents and things like that. That's not the situation. They live in whole homes, in hotels, and they're pretty good, but still they're not home. So let's say if we don't finish the war with Lebanon by the 1st of September, which is the beginning of the school year, so then the children will already enlist in schools all over the country, and will not come back to the north. So that situation also is very, very complicated. And on top of all this, all the Iranian proxies once in a while are trying to fire missiles at us, meaning especially the Yemenites, firing long-range ballistic missiles to Eilat, to our south, also firing on shipping in the Red Sea. So that's also, they're interfering with international shipping. And you have those also in Syria and Iraq and so on, who once in a while try to fire at targets with using unmanned planes and missiles and all kinds we're facing right now. But it's a long story. This is not going to end, tomorrow morning. This is going to continue for at least another few months. I never thought we'll have such a long war, but it's a very complicated war, and a lot of people in Israel call it our second war of independence. That this is a war that will define how Israel will live in this region, in the future. We hope, hope, but we have no illusions. The people of the Hamas they say that what they will do to us is exactly what they did to the people they killed on the 7th of October. Meaning they just want to kill us and wipe us off the map. So I don't see a real, despite the hope and everything, for a real peaceful solution here. That's unfortunately that's not going to happen. To answer this plainly, according to the situation right now, I don't see Russia having a role here, because Russia is very, very one-sided on the side of Iran. It's not on the side of the Arab world. The Arab world, most of it is actually on our side. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf, because everybody's afraid of Iran. And Russia has good relations directly with Iran, that also supplied it with rockets that were fired on Ukraine. So Russia is, unfortunately, Russia is standing on the wrong side of things here. From the point of view of Israel and of the United States, meaning right now we don't see a role for Russia unless the Russians go for some kind of neutrality, because right now they're going completely in the position of Iran and Syria. We in Israel we don't see the balance. So right now, when we saw the Russians going into observation points on the Syrian side of the Golan, facing our forces, this is a very, very dangerous situation. Meaning we don't see Russia, until the events of last year, Russia was on a much more kind of neutral ground, and there was a lot of cooperation actually going on between the forces, between the air forces, and so on. And I think that this cooperation is still going on, but definitely the different statements and proclamations and the way that Russia is behaving in the region is not in our favor. It's actually more against us. And I think that Russia has to look at itself to go back to a more neutral posting in order to be, let's say, if Russia wants to be an intermediate here, it has to be neutral to both sides. Meaning, if we see, President Putin talking to the Iranians and buying arms, and the foreign minister is making pro-Iranian statements and very much against Israel, how can you negotiate? Meaning, we don't see neutrality here. So that's an issue. I think that Russia is now going to a certain direction, and it's not in our favor. So if it wants, I'll tell you, there was a good joke given by Prime Minister Begin years back, that the Russians wanted also to negotiate, but they were completely on the Arab side. So Begin said, you know what, the Russians have a problem because 50%, there are many Arab countries, there's only one Israel, but we are 50% of the sides. Okay, if you don't get along with us, how can you negotiate? So if Russia doesn't come back to the neutral position it had about a year ago, it will be very, very difficult for Russia to negotiate here. After Putin became president, look, the relations are cordial. Meaning you have embassies. We're talking. I'm sure that we're delivering message to each other. But I think that the Russian policy, or the policy makers, if it's Putin, if it's the foreign minister, and so on, they have to look at things in a much more neutral way. Because right now it seems, at least from our eyes, that they're leaning more towards the Iranian side. the moment you lean towards the Iranian side, you cannot be a neutral negotiator. That's meaning we would love, to go back to the relations we had with Russia before, and being much more than cordial, and the visits between Netanyahu and Putin and all that. It was a very good relationship, but since then Russia shifted a bit. So I think that Russia has to rethink its policy. So we're not enemies, Russia and Israel. Definitely, that our former Prime Minister Bennett, he actually spoke with, he met with President Putin, and he met with President Zelensky, and he actually tried, because Israel then had very good negotiating, very good relations with both Russia and Ukraine. So actually, in a way, Israel was in a super position to negotiate between the two. But since then, we're not involving ourselves in international issues. We have enough problems of our own. So I don't see Israel going into a talk between Ukraine and Russia, even though for the world, and of course for Israel, it will be much better than Russia and Ukraine returning back to normal and to normal relations, and to stop this war. In Israel, a lot of people actually don't understand why this war is going on in the first place. Meaning, what's so much the difference between Ukraine and Russia? Used to be even once, under one country during the days of the Soviet Union.
Yes.
So we don't, and even the languages are the same, and the culture is the same, and all that. So we don't understand the war. Between Israel and the Palestinians, you could understand the war, but between Ukraine and Russia, so let's hope that from the Israeli point of view, we wish that that this war will be over. Of course, it will also be a good advantage for us that Russia will not need, unmanned airplanes from Iran, and then will not go towards the Iranians, So even though from what I read in the news, the things are going worse. I understand that Russia is now conducting a major attack in the Kharkov area. So things don't look exactly, that they're going to a ceasefire, and this war has been going on for how long? For 2.5 years. So we'll hope for the best. Meaning, when I was ambassador to Armenia and to Moldova, I used to fly a lot through Kiev when there was direct. And now I'm just thinking about my flights through Kiev. It looks so so far away. Tell you the truth, I'm a diplomat, not a military person. So I really have no idea. I just look, I'll tell you something personal. When the war started, I thought that Ukraine will collapse in 2-3 weeks. That's what I thought. Now I know that it's very, very different. That Ukrainians held on, to their grounds, and today they're getting, of course, a lot of support from the European Union and the United States and the West. I don't see Ukraine collapsing here, that's for sure, and therefore the two sides have to find some kind of solution. But I don't see a Ukrainian collapse. Meaning the Ukrainians surprisingly are handling themselves pretty well. Technically, Russia is much stronger than Ukraine. I mean, you just have to look at the map and you see, but sometimes these things don't work like that. If you look at Israel and the Arab countries, you'll also say Israel has no chance, in this thing. But we're holding on pretty well. So the Ukrainians are also, they're holding on to their grounds, meaning they have their ideology, they're holding on, and eventually I don't think Ukraine will collapse. And even if it becomes weaker, the West will not allow it to collapse. So eventually they'll have to find some kind of peaceful solution. The only problem is it's taking so much time, and so many people are dying. Basically, in terms of Israel, Israel is neutral between Russia and Ukraine, and both sides are angry at us for being neutral. Russia says, we should be pro-Russia because of, our friendship and so on. Ukraine says we should be pro-Ukraine because the whole West is pro-Ukraine and Israel is part of the West. And even the Americans are a little bit angry at us for not being, on the side of Ukraine. So Israel here is in a very, very difficult situation, and therefore for us the best thing is that this war ends, and that we can come back, to good relations between Ukraine and Russia, and of course between Israel and Russia and Israel and Ukraine. This will be the best, and also that Russia will be less active against us in our war. That we feel that Russia is tilting towards our enemy side. So all this eventually could be solved, but right now the whole situation is very, very delicate. So Israel is trying to stay as neutral as it can vis-a-vis Russia and Ukraine. And again, knowing that both leaders, meaning Putin, we know that President Putin is angry at us, and Zelensky is angry at us.
Yes.
So what can you say? We have enough issues, without that problem. So that's concerning that. Concerning the Istanbul agreements, no doubt that this is the way to go. Meaning, if eventually Ukraine and Russia, being the wheat suppliers to the world and all that, will have to get along, meaning this conflict is just causing trouble, especially in countries, in Africa and so on, that need Ukrainian and Russian wheat to come. So basically, if this thing stops, if this cooperation, it's a win-win situation for everybody, for Russia, for Ukraine, for countries in Africa, and so on. You always look for a win-win situation, but unfortunately, we see now the wars between Russia and Ukraine, and between Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and all that people are not looking exactly for a win-win. They're looking for something else, and that's why they war. So that's probably human nature, unfortunately. For sure. I can tell you one thing, especially after the events of 7th of October, the chances of Russia and Ukraine, getting together and eventually solving their problems and so on, will happen somewhere in the future, and it will happen way, way sooner than between us and our enemies. Because Russia and Ukraine are not bound on destroying each other, and in our situation we have.
חברים, נתראה בסרטונים הבאים.